How'd you do on that exercise? I'm going to ask you to put that up in the assignment section so I know that you guys worked on it, or perhaps I'll have to figure it out later, but I'll put it up on as a discussion board. But let's reconstruct the argument. Well, obviously the conclusion is the pious is not what is loved by the gods, the negation of the definition. Right? And we started, remember I told you it's a reductio ad absurdum, so we started with the assumption that the pious is what is loved by the gods. Now how do we get, remember we're getting a Q and a not Q. Well, think about what's loved by the gods. That is, there was some difference. So we see that at least some of the gods love certain actions. Let's talk about actions and not people. So what follows from 1 and 2, therefore, these actions are pious. It follows, that's our Q. It follows from 1 and 2. So we assume P, that's our Q. Then we also know some of the gods hate that though it should be those very same actions. These very same actions. I'll fix it after. So we see that, there's a difference among the gods on the very issues that make up piety and impiety. Now what follows from 1 and 4 is that these actions are not pious. So now we have gotten a statement 3, a statement 5. One is the contradictory of the other, one is a contradiction of the other, the negation of the other. Therefore, the proof works. Now, in terms of evaluating it, is the argument valid? Well, you guys can think about it. You could try to come up with an example of an argument of that form that has true premises and a false conclusion. Take my word for it. It's a pretty complicated one. You're not going to come out with it. Now, are all of the premises true? Well, at least they look like, if we go back to the argument, it looks like all these premises have to be acceptable to Euthyphro, and the first definition is refuted. So now we're going to turn in the second part of this, of our examination of the Euthyphro, to the definition suggested by the problem with this one. Euthyphro is going to figure it out, and again we're going to have Plato, in the mouth of Socrates, come up with a refutation of this argument. But I do want to talk about some other issues, and I will be talking about some other issues in the interim, and I want you guys to think about it when you're reading it. I mean, it's nice. We're talking about the gods. Well, nobody today believes in the gods, or let's say very few of them are thinking on religion. If we think a God exists, or even if we think a God doesn't exist, we don't think there are a lot of them. We think there's just one of them. And in fact, you might remember Xenophanes was the pre-Socratic who thought there was a problem with that, and argued against Homer and Hesiod specifically for that reason. But the question is, okay, great. It's a nice question of history, the history of philosophy, but how does it affect us today? And let me just give you a suggestion that we're going to do in a couple minutes. But when we start talking about this stuff from now on, take the S off and don't make it the gods, make it God. And think about it that way, because I think it's an interesting question, and I think it has an impact on what we think about morality today.